Hi, I'm Becca and we're doing a chappell roan outfit today. I'm making this one which she wore performing Red Wine Supernova on Colbert. There are so many parts to it, I've never had to bedazzle more in my life. Let's begin. The first thing I made were these cute bows. They're so big. She wears two of them and I used this photo from the creator for reference. I got a lot of cheap ribbon and lace trim and just kept adding stuff until I liked it. I just tied these pieces into bows and hot glued them on each other, trying to match both of them. There's 3 main bows on both and I used these flower appliques on each. They came out so adorable to me and I just want to wear them everywhere. I was really excited to make these things. My friend Maddie calls them cakes. You can call them pocket hoops or panniers. I used a pattern which I'll link below, but I have a few suggestions for things I should have done to make it look more like chappels. I used a big white sheet for fabric and 7 meters of steel boating. So I cut a big piece 22 inches high and 32 inches wide, but I recommend 18 by 30. The second piece was 12 high by 16 wide, but I ended up wanting the whole thing to be much skinnier, so I recommend 10 inches by 11 or so. Chappels also has a ruffled or scalloped cut trim along the bottom, so that piece was 3.5 inches. I think I cut about 70 inches wide. It was long. I put a zigzag stitch on the bottom of this piece, then a long stitch at the top to gather it. Fold over the bottom twice to make a casing for the steel boning. It was a bit over an inch wide, and then I hemmed the top and the bottom of the smaller piece. You sew the smaller piece to the big piece at one side. I did the left side. I promise I ironed it later. Sew the ruffles at the bottom of the entire piece. Make sure you leave enough space for boning to go through the casing you made. I sewed a boning channel where the smaller piece meets the big piece and then halfway between the 2 channels. I hope that makes sense. I hemmed the top and that's just for the drawstring that holds the panniers up. Next is stuffing in the steel boning. I cut pieces with steel cutters and had to use my entire body to do so. Put tape at the end so it doesn't impale you or the fabric. Cut the pieces to the length of the channels you made, but a bit smaller just for seam allowance. Then right sides together, sew the smaller piece where it aligns with the bigger piece. The boning will curve and stick out and be hard to sew. Then you repeat that all with the second one. I sewed a quick drawstring and then pulled it in both pieces with a safety pin, and I made it so that the tie goes in the back when I put it on. So like I mentioned, when I put it all on, it was way bigger and wider than I wanted it to be, so I made this inside piece even smaller, cutting it off like 8 inches and resewing, but that's all in my previous suggestions. The fabric for the main bodysuit piece was really hard to find for me. It's this shiny, presumably vinyl fabric that's this off-white tan color, but also has a dotted texture that's almost like crocodile skin. I went to Mood Fabrics and I couldn't find exactly what I wanted, and of course it's expensive to sell there. Eventually I found this fabric that was pretty close to the color and texture I wanted from another fabric store. It's maybe a tad too dark, but it's close enough. The bottoms were a bit of trial and error too. I initially just cut out these 2 pieces and sewed them together based on my own granny panties, but I should have traced underwear with a crotch seam in the back because it did not look good. So I cut the piece in half and I sewed a curved line to fit around the bum better. I also added darts to fit it to my waist. And instead of a zipper, I put eyelets on one side to lace it up because it looks cooler and I will do absolutely anything to avoid putting in a zipper. So she has this pink part that has rhinestones and hanging pearls. This was a little daunting going into it, but fabric first. I used coral taffeta. I thought I was gonna have to sacrifice this old Angelica Schuyler costume for material, but I ended up having scraps of the same fabric, so it will last one day more. I cut out this shape to look like hers. It almost looks like a heart. Then I just folded over the raw edge and hot glued it where I wanted it on the bottom. For the hanging pearls, I just used this silver string and tied a knot at the end to hold the pearls. I did a lot of these. I hot glued them where I wanted and hoped the rhinestones would hide that ugly dried hot glue. I did hot glue a few beads down and had some sticker sequins, but for the rest I used this B7000 glue in Wintertown. I used some brown, some clear. I was running out of sequins, but I tried to get a lot on there. She also has these pink gloves, or arm warmers if you will. Let's sprint through this part a little because I didn't make these too well, but I used the same taffeta fabric as before. I cut 2 pieces that extend about 18 inches and then width is the circumference of your arm. I didn't get much footage, but I folded and sewed both pieces together so it would hold this arm shape. Then you seam rip a little, fold down into a triangle shape, and then sew. I then sewed on this tab to make it look cleaner. This part is supposed to hold the thumb, but I think she just has it out when she wears it. This part is also bedazzled. I put random colored sequins on the top and bottom. In the middle there's also some bedazzling. There's these big purpley black beads. I didn't have anything like that, so I cheated a little by painting it, then just adding whatever beads and pearls I had left over. So for chappell's top, I used a pattern that I'll link to in the description as a base. I just wanted an easy princess seam to use. I just adjusted it to make these big round tabs at the bottom. When the base was all sewn, I worked on the straps. They were 1 inch long and I just did a zigzag top stitch to close them because I'm putting rhinestones over them, so I didn't really care how it looked. I sandwiched both straps between the base and a top lining piece. When that was all sewn, I tried top top stitching not a great idea because it's thick and I do not have the right needles. I definitely had a lot of trouble with this fabric in general. There's a lot of parts where you should not look too close. For the back, I wanted another lace-up situation, so I squeezed in some eyelets. I added bra cups because a little push-up is always appreciated here. I used these silver rhinestone strips and hot glued them on to line the whole top, straps, and bottom tabs. So for the big design on the top, I bought these brown sequin strips that I thought might work easier than individually gluing them all on. So I marked with a tan colored paint where I wanted it to go and I hot glued them on. And when I saw what I had done, I'm not kidding when I say I cried. They look like creepy, crawly little spiders and they scare me. I don't know why I painted it. I knew I wouldn't be able to cover enough of the area with just the sequins because I didn't buy enough, but I thought the paint would like fill it out. It definitely needed a fix, so I got some brown rhinestones and hoped that would be it. I tried to keep some of the sequins that I just glued, but I ripped it off where it was too thick or I didn't think it would look right. I also had to clean up and remove some of the paint with isopropyl alcohol, trying not to damage the fabric in the process. And then again, I got to blinging. It was starting to look a whole lot better. I do still think I could have filled it out more because hers is a little bigger. I still can. It's right here. I also used these strips of white sheer fabric. I sewed them all together and gathered it for the ruffle at the top. And that was pretty much it, so it's time for the final look. And there it is. This took much longer than I thought it would. I really wanted to go full out and do the makeup, but after further deliberation, it didn't seem wise. If someone else can do it for me, that would be much, much appreciated. Another note, while wearing these outfits, I always want to try to find something to do in them because I never will again. And this time I was hungry, so I thought I could try to find a chapel-related snack or drink. For options, there's of course red wine, which would have made the most sense if I did not hate the taste of red wine. There's Papa John's, which is less niche and probably would have satiated me more. But instead, I looked to the song Naked in Manhattan, specifically where she sings, "You love peach and ice cream." And I had my meal. I went to a familiar tree and set up my blanket for a picnic where, of course, I had a singular peach and vanilla ice cream. I did love it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching the Sabrina video and the Tyla video if you did. Again, always feel free to recommend anything you want me to recreate because I love that the most. I want to do more general sewing videos and tutorials, but these are really fun to make. Okay, bye!